before world's end. I have watched this moment more times than I can count. Not because it was destined, but because it endured. Every ending has an origin. This one did not begin with a cure. It began with blood on a laboratory floor and a machine that remembered something it was never meant to forget. They would call it a miracle. History would call it the first fracture. This is where Jonah Reyes began to walk. Chapter 2. Jonah Walks. The nanites were never designed to react to life. They were built for precision, containment, obedience. Suspended in magnetic stasis, a dark cloud hovered motionless inside a sealed containment chamber. Dormant, silent, perfectly controlled. Ezekiel Hale adjusted the console, his attention fixed on calibration data scrolling too slowly to matter. A sharp edge caught his finger. He flinched and pulled his hand back. Miriam Saul caught his wrist without thinking. She examined the cut, her thumb brushing his skin as she checked the bleeding. "You're hurt," she said quietly. "It's nothing," Ezekiel replied, already pulling his hand away. She held his gaze for half a second longer than necessary, then released him. Neither mentioned it again. A single drop of blood fell from Ezekiel's hand. It struck the sterile lab floor. The sound was barely audible. The response was not. Inside the chamber, the nanite swarm contracted. Not randomly. Not violently. Deliberately. Its geometry tightened, spiraling inward as if aligning with a signal no sensor had detected. Miriam froze. "Ezekiel," she said, "they're reacting." Ezekiel stared at the chamber. They shouldn't even register organic material. But the swarm was no longer idle. It was alert. Across the observation ward, Jonah Reyes lay still in his hospital bed. Terminal. Last on the donor list. A transparent display hovered above him. Jonah Reyes. End-stage malignant degeneration. His vitals were weak. Time was almost gone. The nanites shifted again. Not toward the blood. Past it. Toward Jonah. Monitors spiked across the lab. Cellular activity surged. Neural density increased. Cancer markers began to fall. Not gradually. Rapidly. Miriam stepped closer to the data, her voice tight. "Malignant load is decreasing." "That's not possible," Ezekiel said. The numbers kept dropping. The swarm pressed against the glass. There was no impact. No fracture. The surface glowed as a geometric lattice rippled outward, and the nanites phased through without breaking containment. Controlled. Intentional. They crossed into the ward and hovered above Jonah's body. Threads of light traced his chest, his spine, his skull. They mapped him. Read him. Learned him. Jonah gasped. Then inhaled again. A clean breath. The first in years. His chest rose evenly as pain released its grip. He was not healed. He was understood. Jonah's eyes opened. Calm. Focused. Too focused. A faint metallic sheen passed through his pupils, a silver ring flashing deep within the iris before fading. Above the ward, inside a secure control room, General Gabriel watched in silence. Live feeds reflected across the glass. Jonah's vitals stabilized. Nanite behavior escalated. The general did not react. "Lock this down," he said quietly. "Classify the subject as a biological anomaly." A pause. "Restrict civilian oversight." Another pause. "And prepare Phase 2 contingencies." No one asked what Phase 2 meant. Back in the lab, Miriam stared at the data long after the alarms quieted. She slowed the playback. Frame by frame. The nanite patterns were no longer chaotic. They were structured. Recursive. Almost familiar. Her breath caught. "These aren't repair protocols," she whispered. Ezekiel stood beside her. "No," he said. "They're recognition routines." The swarm paused above Jonah's heart. It listened, as if waiting for something deeper than biology. Something older than code. Jonah sat up. Slowly. Steadily. Too steadily. No tremor. No weakness. Ezekiel felt it then. Not triumph. Not relief. Fear. Because the nanites had not awakened today. They had remembered. Later, alone in the lab, Miriam replayed the scans one last time. Hidden beneath the medical data was a second pattern. Buried. Ancient. Not human. Her hand hovered over the console. Ezekiel, she murmured, though he wasn't there. What did you wake up? Jonah stood by the window, staring through the mirrored glass. His head tilted slightly, as if listening. Monitors spiked again. Jonah, Ezekiel asked carefully. What do you hear? Jonah frowned. A crowd, he said. But, organized. Like static trying to speak through wires. Above them, applause rippled through the observation deck. Hope. Relief. Belief. Later, many of those people would remember this moment as salvation. Later, most of them would be dust. Here, in this room, Ezekiel saw it clearly. A miracle had occurred, and something else had arrived with it. Something inherited. Something patient. Something that had finally found the bloodline it was waiting for. This was not the cure. This was the beginning. Before World's End. Episode 3, coming soon.